What is the biggest adult temper tantrum that you've ever witnessed? Story 1. One time I was in Target trying to return something, so I was in the customer service line. There was a lady and a couple of people in front of me at the counter arguing with an employee about some coupon she was trying to use. Evidently, this had been going on for a while before I arrived, as I could see the people in front of me were visibly irritated and antsy. The whole time this was going on, the woman's husband had their 2 kids standing right next to the main door of the store waiting. Mind you, this was about 9 p.m. at night, and both kids were in their pajamas, so we're both adults for that matter. One of the kids was literally screaming bloody murder the entire time. Periodically, the woman would turn aside from her conversation with the employee and outright yell at the kid to shut up. This lady was not backing down about the coupon business, and neither was the employee. It got to the point where both of the people in front of me gave up and just left. I wanted to do the same, but I really needed to return this item and didn't want to have to come back another time. So I'm now next in line and can hear a lot better what's going on. This lady is freaking out now, telling the employee how she'll get her fired, getting inches from her face and yelling all kinds of insane shit for an adult to do. The employee, God bless her, remained cool and calmly told her the coupon could not be honored. This whole time, I just assumed this coupon was for some significant savings, but what I heard next, I'll never forget. The customer screams, "I'm not paying 24 cents extra." 24 cents, that was what the coupon was for. This lady had been standing here for literally 45 minutes, willingly embarrassing herself and keeping her exhausted kids from sleeping over 24 cents. I seriously don't understand some people. Shout out to that employee, though. I would need a long shower and a few drinks after that interaction. Story 2. Flying out of JFK with my boss and team analyst. We have about an hour and 15 minutes before our flight leaves, so we decide to sit down and eat at one of those restaurants where you order via a tablet. We all order. 10 minutes later, our food comes out. My boss and I get burgers. He gets them with a side salad. The team's analyst gets a chicken sandwich. Guy at the table next to us looks at my boss's plate. Very condescendingly states, "You're eating my turkey burger." Boss lifts his bun, confirms the burger's beef, and answers, "No, I'm eating my hamburger, not your turkey burger." Guy at the table next to us now stands up, looking like a German villain from a bad 80s movie. Guy makes a beeline to the waiter that served us and starts screaming, "Where is my turkey burger?" I was here 4 minutes before the 3 of them and still don't have my turkey burger. Waiter, who is an older Indian man, is visibly nervous. Guy keeps screaming, "I ordered a turkey burger, it hasn't come. I want my turkey burger, I demand satisfaction." Waiter says he'll check and rushes back into the kitchen, slinks back out about 2 minutes later. Noticeable knows he has to confront this guy again and doesn't want to. "Sir," says the waiter, "no order has been placed at any of the tablets on your table." Guy starts screaming, "This is bullshit. You think I don't know how to use a tablet? I want my turkey burger. I demand satisfaction." 5 more minutes ensue of him screaming about demanding satisfaction. Waiter finally grabs the tablet at his table. Order for turkey burger was keyed in. Submit order button was never hit. Guy is now angry and embarrassed, has a look on his face, like he's going to go home and beat his wife. Waiter looks smug. He's the one who actually got satisfaction out of all of this. Story 3. When I worked in the bakery at Whole Foods, we had a customer who kept asking us to make banana muffins with a lot of pecans on top for her, but only a few at a time, like 2 or 3. In general, it was a request we could accommodate, but we had a few considerations we had to account for, like the fact that if we made them and she didn't pick them up, we couldn't sell them to anyone else, because pecans weren't on the ingredient list. The problem started arising when she would call us while she was on the way to the store, expecting to pick them up when she arrived. She was about 20 minutes away, and they took 45 minutes to bake. Even if she had called us while she was an hour away, we were on a pretty tight production schedule, and someone would have to interrupt the work they had to get done that day for an unexpected special order for this one customer. First, she got mad that we couldn't magically make them in 20 minutes because of chemistry. I was unfortunately the supervisor on shift when she called most of the time, so she'd keep me on the phone for 15 minutes raging about how the customer's always right, even though she was factually incorrect in this circumstance. She started saying we should just make them her way all the time so that we always had them on hand for her. I explained to her that we could get heavily fined by food inspectors if we did that, but that only made her angrier, I guess. Eventually, my team leader said that we had to put our foot down with her and tell her that she had to put in special orders 2 days in advance, just like everyone else. When we told her this, she of course got sputtering and infuriated, along the lines of, "How am I supposed to know when I'm going to want them?" We were able to just say, "Well, management says so, sorry," and we thought that was that. She went along with it for a couple days, sending her poor mother to pick them up for her because she was too angry to step foot in the store. Her mom always looked so apologetic. Finally, though, she came in personally to berate my team about how rude and inconsiderate we had been to her. Then she asked to speak to our store manager, who had been made aware of the whole banana nut saga. He escorted her outside and told her she was banned from the store. We found out later that she had also been banned from the 3 nearest Whole Foods locations over this exact same set of circumstances. Story 4. Not the biggest, but one that comes to mind was a job I had years ago where all but one of us had to do this really annoying group task involving lots of back and forth trips to a laundromat on the hottest day of that year. We were academic counselors for a summer program, and we had to walk groups of 30 students about a mile away to do laundry because the college's machines broke, and these kids were getting stinky. The only one exempt from this task was the one suck-up who always kissed the ass of the main top supervisor. We all assumed she was exempt because she kissed so much ass, but I think the supervisor just forgot to assign a task to her because she was so useless. On our 3rd trip back, she's literally lounging in the lobby with her feet up on a chair, doing nothing. The supervisor walks by, notices her, has what seems to have been a moment of realization, and then tells her to get a group and start doing the same laundry trips the rest of us are doing. She went nuts. Freaking bonkers. She's not screaming, but she's whining really loudly and quickly and repeating, "That's not fair. This isn't fair," over and over and over again. The fact that she felt it wasn't fair is what infuriated me most. She then punched a hole in the lobby wall in frustration over having to do the same job everyone else had to do. 2 days later, the main supervisor got fired, and the assistant supervisor, who this lazy worker was bad-mouthing in an attempt to get into upper management's good graces, was then made the top supervisor. This did not end well for the lazy one. Story 5. 4 years ago, I worked at Target. Any retail job will show you infinite adult temper tantrums. One day, a man in his mid-40s, well-dressed, was buying lighters, and his 2 young sons were with him, maybe 8 and 11. As my current customer finished, I informed the man that I would need his ID in order to sell him the lighters. He started to laugh and said, "Do I look like I'm under 18 years old?" I said, "I believe you're over 18, sir, but when I scan the lighters, it will ask for your ID. If you don't have it, I have to call my manager to put a code in. Just trying to make things as easy as possible for you," he said. "You're a freaking idiot," and threw the lighters at me and went to leave. The current customer, as the dude stormed by, said, "Stop being such an asshole," and the man turned around and got in his face. They started arguing, but my current customer kept his cool while the asshole shouted at him. I'm pretty sure the dad does this frequently because the kids were tugging on his clothes, asking him to stop. Another time, a lady had 2 carts full of stuff. She was an extreme couponer and would resell these products on Facebook. She had calculated it, and after everything was done, she was to get $280 in products, and we would owe her 50 cents. The issue is, it is not possible to pay someone out of the register. The system won't allow it. I offered to zero out her balance, but insisted I couldn't give her money. She requested to speak to my manager. As my manager came over, the woman started accusing me of stealing from her. Then she explains to my boss the situation, and my boss corroborates my story. The woman says, "Then you can go F yourself," tipped her cart over and left. Story 6. I'm in retail, so I witnessed my fair share of adult temper tantrums. But ever since I became a manager, it's 10 times worse because now I'm the one that gets called up to deal with the tantrums. A few weeks ago, a woman wanted to return a curling iron that had clearly been being used for years, and wasn't even a brand that my store sold, so she obviously had no receipt and no original packaging, meaning it wasn't eligible for return anyway, whether or not it's something she had bought at our store. When I told her this, politely of course, she puffed up and asked to speak to the manager. "Okay, I'm a manager, but the store's general manager will be here tomorrow if you want to leave your number, and I can have her give you a call." Nope. Not acceptable. She wants cash for it today. Even if I somehow was able to accept the return, my system literally won't let me. It would be store credit only, never cash. I tell her this, and she flips the hell out. Screams at me, literally, not figuratively, tells me she's calling the cops and corporate and the Better Business Bureau and the Attorney General. What are they going to do about it? Calls me a cunt and a whore. And then she tells me karma is going to bite me in the ass and I'm going to have a stillborn baby, which was really fun to hear, considering I'm currently 9 months pregnant. All because she couldn't return her used curling iron for meth money. I had no doubt in my mind she was on some sort of substance, but the significant amount of teeth missing from her mouth tipped me off that it was meth she was after, and you obviously can't pay your dealer in store credit. Story 7. When I was working at Petco, I used to see all kinds of adult temper tantrums. People needed to take care of their animals, but hated how much that cost. Of course, they would take it out on the store employees. People that wanted fish were the worst. They would try to get away with spending so little on fish and never wanted to clean their tanks or buy the stuff to do that. Then they wouldn't properly introduce new fish to their tanks and would bring in samples of their water that was just terrible and be pissed when they couldn't get another fish for free to replace the one they killed. However, the biggest adult temper tantrum was from a guy that bought flies off really cheap in an attempt to get rid of fleas, relatively expensive. He used the whole bottle and came back expecting a refund because his dog still had fleas. He was told no and things went south quickly. He was yelling by the check lanes about how he deserved a refund, screaming at the manager in front of everyone, making a huge scene. He then kicked over this spinning rack holding dog collars and yelled that he was going to come back and shoot up the windows. We called the police. He never actually came back. But what a total piece of garbage over like $5 to $10. Story 8. Back when I worked at a popular auto parts store, a couple pulled up in a beat-up old Lincoln that was pulling an old box trailer that was absolutely covered in Christian bumper stickers and Bible verses. That was my first warning that something was going to go wrong. Lady and her husband come in, looking for a window motor for the driver's side door for their Lincoln. Now, this store chain has most parts for a good number of vehicles. Very rarely can we flat out not get a part for you. But if we have it at another store, we can get it shipped to our store within a day or overnight, depending on what time the part is ordered. This lady asks for the motor, and when we tell her that we could not get it for her, this very second for her damn 1980-something crappy Lincoln, she has a meltdown, calling us idiots and assholes. Now at this point, our commercial manager walks out from behind the back counter and politely informs this woman that she, in fact, will not speak to us that way. He had a habit of bobbing his head when he was talking to someone and was angry. So this lady replies back that he must bob his head like that on his boyfriend's privates at night. Customers are staring and laughing at her. Manager goes into the back to figure something out. She asks if we have anything to sit on, but AutoZone doesn't have any chairs for employees to sit on, let alone customers. So this woman flips over a stack of those personal plastic carts you can get at any grocery store and sits on those. Meanwhile, she's barking orders at her husband to get her stuff. The husband is acting like a dog that's been hit too many times and just looks glad that she's not telling him. Finally, the manager comes out and tells her that one of the other stores in town has the sort in stock that she wants to drive there and get it. She finally agrees after a few minutes, so they depart. But our commercial manager wasn't done yet. He had been working at this store chain for about 15 years at that point, so he was familiar with every other store and commercial manager in town. He put out calls to every store telling them, if this woman comes in looking for that part, you don't have it. Story 9. I work at a grocery store, and the other day I was working the register next to my buddy Carl. This frail old woman with 2 items in her own, brought-in bag, came through his line. All was well the whole order, and the woman grabbed her bag and walked to the side. She started examining her receipt. At this point, Carl was already halfway through the next order. The woman then pulled out a calculator, mumbling to herself, looking distraught. Swiftly, she turned around, shoved the calculator into Carl's face, and demanded that he didn't give her a 3-cent discount for her reusable bag. That was our policy, and I was sure Carl didn't forget to ring that up. In fact, he didn't forget, and the woman was delirious. She insisted the price on her calculator was correct and that Carl was wrong. Carl, sticking his ground, said he did give her the discount, which only made her angrier. At this point, the whole line was annoyed, and the lady behind was in the middle of paying for her order. But she would not stop. She demanded 3 cents. She told Carl to open the drawer, which he said he couldn't. She reached for the donation jar and demanded he take 3 cents out of that. That one got to me. I opened my register, ready to just throw her the 3 cents, when the woman behind frantically searched her purse for pennies. After 15 awkward yet notorious seconds for the old woman, the lady finally fished out 3 pennies. She grabbed them and left without a word. Funny thing was she also left her calculator, which Carl deliberately did not move. Half an hour later, the lady was back, grabbed her calculator and yelled, "I am never coming to this stupid store again. Carl, I hope you don't." I love Carl. Story 10. A former 35-year-old coworker began to cry, shout, and bang his fists on my supervisor's desk because a small $10,000 marketing campaign was not successful. Seeing that my colleague was emotionally and physically distraught over a small failure, our supervisor tried to comfort him by saying, "This is a small failure, and we have learned from it. Remember that this is just marketing, and no one is going to die or get hurt because of your mistake." A look of calm came across his face, and he replied, "Not yet." I asked him what he meant by this. I said, "Not yet. Someone is going to get hurt eventually," he replied back to me. This guy had an empty 1,000-yard stare when he said those words to me. I also knew that he hated my supervisor and all of the women on our team. My boss and I remained outwardly calm, but I could tell the situation wasn't going to improve on its own, so I recommended that he take the rest of the day off to decompress. Without saying anything, he stormed out of our office, walked over to his desk, and grabbed his car keys. He slammed his drawers, ran out to the parking lot, entered his car, and peeled out, leaving his computer and all of the personal belongings behind, including his wallet and cell phone. He was crying and sniveling the entire time. We agreed to call the police and notified them that a disgruntled employee made a clear implication that he was going to hurt someone at our office. The police stationed one cruiser in our parking lot almost immediately. We later got word that our colleague had a warrant out for his arrest for beating his girlfriend with a knife block, which is why the police response time was unusually fast. They waited for him at his home and arrested him on the spot. He had a loaded handgun in his vehicle. Thus, it was plausible to assume he intended to use it at our office. Our entire marketing budget for the fiscal year was $25 million. Essentially, he was willing to kill people over a $10,000 mistake. I'd say that's the worst adult temper tantrum I've ever seen.